Hey friends, I hope you are all doing well and are having a good start of the week. Today I felt something on my heart that I needed to share that was triggered by some people that I was interacting with. You know, we talk about forgiveness and we talk about forgiving others. And some of you have witnessed or have stated how difficult it may be to forgive the people that have hurt you, especially those that are closest to you. You may find it easy to say I've forgiven someone who is at a distance, probably because they're not that very close to you and maybe whatever they did not affect you that much, however bad it was, because the relationship is not as close. But the one who is closest to you, even the smallest thing they do gets to hurt you the greatest. And there is that struggle to want to forgive them. Okay? I mean, you find it difficult to forgive them. And you say, yeah, I may forgive, but I will not forget. How do you know that you've truly forgiven that someone? When, if you remembered what they did to you and it has no negative effect on you anymore, that means you've forgiven them fully. When you are able to interact with them on a normal level without feeling any bitterness or anger towards them anymore, that means that you have forgiven them. And that full forgiveness is a choice. But the healing takes time. However, it is important to allow yourself to go through the process of healing and exercise that forgiveness through your actions. Now, that may seem difficult, but there is another angle to forgiveness that we tend to skip, and yet it's the most important, and if unattended to, it's the most damaging. Forgiving yourself. If you have done something so foolish or something so stupid, and you end up blaming yourself and say, how could I do this? How? What was I thinking? How could I let my guard down? How could I get to do what I did? Now that is blaming yourself. It's very possible and important to acknowledge that you actually goofed. You actually did something foolish. You did something wrong. But then it shouldn't be taken deeper into blaming yourself, because when you blame yourself, it doesn't make you feel any better. I know what I'm talking about because I've gone through this process. Blaming myself of how could I do this? What was I thinking? What became of me? But that self-blame leads to emotional turbulence and emotional hurt, and it destroys you little by little. So it is important to just end at the acknowledgement that, hey, I did something wrong, I made a mistake. But then take the process of forgiving yourself. When you choose to forgive yourself, then you won't continue blaming yourself, and therefore you won't go through that negative turmoil. It is important to focus on forgiving yourself. If you can't forgive yourself, you will not heal, and therefore you won't forgive the other person. And what are some of the symptoms of not forgiving yourself? You're going to pass blame onto another. You are going to channel your anger onto another person. Because you're hurting, therefore you want to pass that blame onto another person. 2, you're going to look for all reasons and excuses of wanting to walk out of a situation by pointing fingers to another person. Because somehow it gives you temporary relief. It gives you a temporary feeling better by blaming someone else. But 2, you find it difficult to forgive the other person. You're bitter with them, you're angry with them. And yet in reality, the person you're really angry with and frustrated with is yourself. Why? Because you did something that is not good. The other symptom is you project your guilt onto other people in many forms. Now, I won't be able to go into details of that, but I wanted to share with you something on my heart. It is important to forgive yourself. When you forgive yourself, you learn to be able to forgive others easily. How do you start the process of forgiving yourself? Acknowledge that you did something wrong. Also realize that you are human and you're not perfect. You're not God. You have made a mistake, and then also realize that you are able to come out of that mistake. You're able to learn from that mistake and do better, and you have opportunities to make a better turn around and live a better life. Then speak to yourself, I forgive myself. Brian, I forgive you. You did something foolish out of human error. You allowed your flesh to get the better of you, but you can do much better because you are better. Let's do better today and do even much better tomorrow. And then ask for the strength of God. Ask God to give you the strength to be able to move past that mistake so that you don't think of it so much and be able to move forward. Then think about what do you need to do to counter the wrong that you did. Okay? If you fell into a trap, how can you avoid that trap? The mistake, what led to the mistake? What do you need to do in order to avoid falling into that same mistake? It is okay to make new mistakes, but it is foolish to make the same old mistakes. So you need to go through some of those processes and more to make sure that you forgive yourself. If you don't forgive yourself, it becomes very difficult to forgive others. It becomes very difficult for you to have the joy in your life that you need to have. It becomes very, very difficult to progress in life. You live the rest of your life blaming yourself. It impedes your growth. It takes your peace away. Even that the joy God has given you has no effect on your life. God's peace cannot rest in you because you are feeling guilty and you're blaming yourself and you're finding it hard to forgive yourself. Hey, you're human. You've made that mistake. Forgive yourself because God has forgiven you. And even the person you may have wronged has forgiven you. That is the other problem. When you don't forgive yourself, even when another person forgives you, you feel like they are pretending or they are lying just to make you feel good. Let's learn to forgive ourselves. Let's learn to love ourselves, because then it will be easier to forgive the other and love them as well.